Tonight, an advanced society in an ancient world now stands charged with cannibalism. One man is obsessed with digging up the truth. Has he found it? And do we dare listen? Uncover the secrets of the dead. Secrets of the Dead was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
The American Southwest, a harsh land of desolate beauty. Yet this marginal place has been home to many societies over time. Around 200 AD, a legendary one arose here, commonly known as the Anasazi. This ancestral Puebloan people flourished for more than 1,000 years. Their center, Chaco Canyon, is now perhaps the most visited but least understood archaeological site in all of the Southwest. Little is known about these ancient people, but archaeologists and historians have viewed them as a model society. Peaceful, democratic, a near utopia. We know they cultivated maize and observed the stars. They built a world of sophisticated architecture, engineering and urban planning, of astronomical record-keeping, and pottery adorned with fine art. But all that was shattered around 1200 AD. When these ancestral Puebloans seemingly disappeared. To this day, no one knows exactly why. They left behind abandoned buildings and their bones. Today, new forensic findings are casting this ancient and supposedly peace-loving people in a new light, and a darker image is emerging. Unearthing the facts has been one man's professional obsession.
We look around at this beauty. It's incredibly beautiful. But something happened here that was not pleasant.
Physical anthropologist Christy Turner has spent the last 30 years examining the bones of those who lived and died in the ancient Southwest.
When we look at a child, the child is very hard to deal with. It's easier to see this as an object. But on the other hand, if we look at it very closely, we can begin to see things about the child. We can tell from the kinds of dental wear and the kinds of dental damage that the child had been, relatively healthy up to a certain point, but this episode stopped the child's life. Notice that the nose is broken, the blown out sockets of the teeth. We think this kind of damage results from having been hit in the face with a stone, but we cannot tell if the child was alive or if it was dead at the time this happened.
Once a forensic consultant to law enforcement agencies, now a professor at Arizona State University, Turner has devoted much of his professional career to investigating a unique kind of violence. He believes that life in the ancient Southwest was much more brutal than ever suspected.
The Anasazi have been portrayed as peaceful, happy farmers, with no problems. But you will see the evidence of violence and warfare almost every place you look. Now, people don't seem to have any problem with violence. You can attack a town, kill 800 people, nobody gets too excited. But people have a big problem watching in this great town, watching our evidence say that someone was being eaten.
Cannibalism. Humans butchered, cooked, and eaten. It's such a disturbing practice that few scientists until recently were even willing to investigate it.
If you infer what happened here, and you follow the inferences and their logical tracks, you come to a very, very emotional set of events going on. The history indicates that people are screaming, the women are begging not to be killed, the men who tried to help them get mutilated. They mutilate the people while they're alive, they're cutting their arms off while they're alive, and some of these scenes are horrible. And if you let yourself see these things, it becomes very difficult to be objective about what you're doing and dealing with.
Although Turner saw disturbing signs of violence in the bones, early on he wasn't sure they indicated cannibalism.
We accidentally came across some human remains that we could not understand. We went ahead and studied those remains. We gave a report on those remains in a major meeting. The public didn't buy into it, but there was one man in the crowd, Alan Brew, who came up afterwards and said, "I've got another mass of human remains exactly like you described." And from that point on, from those two analyses, it became very obvious that we were dealing with something that had been missed by all but a few southwestern archaeologists.
It was in 1969 that Turner, as a young professor, presented his controversial paper describing traces of cannibalism. Over the following 3 decades, he and his late wife Jacqueline amassed evidence of cannibalistic practices. Turner has argued his case in print and in the classroom.
There's a pattern of decapitation and then roasting of the head to a certain degree, not too much. Okay? You don't want to burn everything up. You don't want to walk off and ruin your dinner. Okay? So,
lined up against him and his controversial theories are Native American tribes like the Hopi and the Zuni and their clans, who consider themselves descendants of the ancestral Pueblo-Indians. They charge that Turner's claims are shockingly inaccurate.
First of all, on the issue of violence and cannibalism, we do have some memory of different types of violent behavior inflicted upon Hopi people. We do not have any traditions about any of the 60 or so clans that we know once existed of inflicting any kind of behavior that extreme against any other Hopi clan.
But Turner believes he has identified clear and convincing evidence of cannibalism. The findings come from sites throughout the Four Corners region, and even in Chaco Canyon itself, the very heart of this ancient society. From the narrow rooms and round kivas, the ceremonial chambers of these early Americans, Turner has returned time and time again to the long-ignored bones discovered in and around this canyon by generations of early archaeologists. The story begins more than 100 years ago, when the first archaeologists came here in the late 1800s. They noticed human bones scattered among the rocks. Most ancient burial sites are orderly, showing reverence to the dead. But here in the Southwest, some ancestral Puebloan sites were different. Bones were mangled, crushed, tossed aside like common refuse. No one knew exactly what it all meant, but they had their suspicions. Trader, guide,